Welcome to the NCAA tournament.
Thank you.
We'll start with an opening statement from Coach, and then we'll take questions. Once again, just raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. Just give name and affiliation before asking your question. So, Coach?
Yeah, obviously it's a tremendous honor for us to be here. It's exciting to be in New York. Such a great city for basketball, and getting here yesterday, you could feel it once we got to the city. Our guys are excited. We're ready to go. We know we have a very tough challenge in front of us against a really experienced, talented team that's well coached, that has great NCAA tournament experience, right? Coming off a Final Four run last year. So we know we've had a good week of practice. We're excited to be here, looking forward to the opportunity to play in FAU tomorrow and see what we can do.
All right, we'll take questions at this time. We'll start in the middle here on the aisle with Dave Ennett.
Hey, Coach. Dave Ennett, WGN Chicago. You mentioned the experience that FAU has. Your guys got some tournament experience, but you're down a couple experienced players. How much do you lean on Boo and Brooks and Langborg also to kind of carry you through against a very experienced team?
Yeah, I think having guys that have played in the NCAA tournament, certainly for us being there last year, winning our first round game, Boo Buie, Brooks Barnheiser, Nick Martinelli, all guys that got, significant time during that run. And then adding Ryan Langborg, who goes to a Sweet 16 last year with Princeton. You have guys who kind of have been on this stage. Last year, I could tell a lot of our guys, they were wide-eyed, right? It was their first time going to the tournament, dealing with the added media exposure, the open practice, all the things that come along with the NCAA tournament. It was all new to them. And this year, you could even sense this week, just guys, they understood what was coming. They understand what's in front of us. And certainly we got to lean on that experience. And then some of our young guys who maybe haven't had a chance to play on this stage, it gives them an opportunity to follow the lead of those older players into tomorrow.
Come up here in the aisle in the front row.
Hey, Coach. Jim Saturday from the FAU Owl's Nest. What's going to be the key to keeping the ball out of Golden's hands and to keep it from getting deep position?
Yeah, well, Golden is a terrific big man. I mean, watching film, he would certainly be one of the better bigs, that we've played against. I mean, we had to go against Edey a couple times, so I'm maybe not the best, but he would be up there. I mean, his skill level at 7 feet tall, his ability to run the floor, get deep position. We're down one of our bigs, so it's going to be important that we do a good job of being physical and playing hard without fouling and not allowing him to get easy scores. I think the thing about this FAU team that really makes them dangerous is he's so good as an interior presence, but then you can't lose sight of how good their guards are. And they really spread the floor and they space you and they can shoot and they can drive you. And I think that's what makes them such a prolific offensive team, is their ability to have balance. But, it starts with Golden's ability to post and get dunks and rim runs off the pick and roll, and we have to do a good job, hopefully, limiting that.
We'll come up here in the front row, right in front of me.
Hi, Coach. Perry Keatai, WNUR Sports. Speaking of injuries, your team has had to deal with so many and so much adversity. How would you describe how the style of play on the offensive end for your team has changed over the course of the season from the beginning to now? And speaking of FAU's offense, how are you going to keep up with them? Yeah,
well, first, when it comes to our team, we really have had to reinvent our offensive system a little bit, and I've been proud of our guys about that. We were built early on in the year we were very prolific offensively with the floor spacing. Ty Berry, Ryan Langborg, Boo Buie kind of spacing the floor, could really shoot the ball. Brooks Barnheiser then had a lot of space to operate kind of as our jack-of-all-trades player. And then Matt Nicholson was always a great lob threat for us coming off the pick-and-roll game. So you lose Ty and Matt, and we also lost Langborg for a couple weeks. So it really kind of changed how we had to play to be successful. Nick Martinelli has really stepped in, but he's got a different kind of game. He plays more from the two-point range in the paint. Now our other big guys have been in front and center, Luke Hunger, Blake Preston. And we've had to really focus on playing. You know, we lost 30-something points a game, you know, with those guys out. So we've had to really clamp down better defensively, be a little bit smarter with our tempo and not get into these up and down games. And I think that lends itself to the game tomorrow. You know, they want to play in the 80s, 90s. I mean, they want to get out and run. They want to space the floor. They want to play a high-scoring game. And that's not really going to be a great formula for us, you know, just with our depth and how we're wired. So, you know, we got to do a great job trying to keep the game more to our tempo, you know, make it more of an execution type of game and not turn the ball over. We got to take good shots, and I think that's the first key to doing a good job against them. If you take rush bad shots or you turn it over, you can't set your defense, and that's where their guys get in the open floor and they become really hard to stop. And like we talked about, they present a lot of problems with their ability to play inside and out. They have a terrific big man, but they also have a ton of perimeter guys that can really score and can break you down off the dribble and make threes. And that's going to, you know, make it a really good, tough challenge for our defense.
Do we have any more questions for Coach Collins? Okay. We'll start here on this side, row 3 on the end.
Jesse Doherty with the Washington Post. Chris, there's been a ton of talk this week about tournament expansion, what to do in the future beyond this year. Just maybe what are your general thoughts about, you know, that conversation and whether the tournament should be expanded?
Well, I've always been an old school guy. You know, for me, it was always about 64 and then 68. I just don't. We have such a good thing going with this event. I mean, there's no event in our country really, from a sports perspective, that I think captures, you know, the whole country like March Madness does and the tournament does. And, you know, we're evolving in so many different areas with transfer portal and NIL and all that. So, I mean, everything has to always be looked at, I think, is my stance. But, you know, for me, being an old school kind of historian of the game, I love where this event is at. I love the format of it, the 3 weeks, the 6 games. And I just think we got to be careful messing around with it too much because it's such a great event for our sport.
We'll stay on this side. Now we're in row 2. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Levitt Cabas from Sportico. There's been a lot of news coming out of Dartmouth recently about the men's basketball team voting to unionize. What was your reaction to that news, and have you talked about it at all with your team?
Well, it's interesting. We went through it a little bit at our school with our football team. You know, a number of years back, you know, there was some exploratory, you know, same type of deal. And it ended up kind of at that point not really going any further. You know, I think you're just seeing there's so much movement over the past year in event like what's happening with college sports. And, you know, I think we all have to stay ahead of it. I mean, we have talked to our guys a little bit, nothing too much in depth, but, you know, I think no one really knows where this is all going to head over the next year, 2 years. You know, what are the rules going to be in place? You know, where is this going to go? Is it going to come through the schools? Is NIL still going to be prevalent? Like, where are all these things? I mean, the changes that have been made over the past year, I mean, has been at a speed I don't think anybody could have imagined. And so I think we just have to be open. We got to be ready to evolve. And, you know, we just have to put ourselves in a position at Northwestern to not lose sight of who we are, but also in order to be competitive, make sure that we stay in tune with where college sports is, and we all want what's best for the student athletes. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I mean, I was a student athlete at one point. I'm jealous. You know, I wish some of the things that were afforded to these guys now were afforded to me, but we all want our guys to be able to maximize their ability to market themselves and make money as student athletes. And let's just figure out the best way to do that for our game and for everybody involved.
We're going to stay on this side in row 3, and then we'll go across. Go ahead.
Jamal Murphy, Bill Roden on Sports. Obviously, FAU has the Final Four experience. The question went to a couple of your players, and they kind of said, well, all that matters is strapping it up tomorrow and see where we are. But as a coach, what's your feeling about it in terms, like, how does that change how you approach the game, knowing that you know, Final Four experience that you're going up against?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it changes it too much. I mean, every year's a new year. We have great respect. Our players have amazing respect for their team. We've really dug in the last, you know, ever since Selection Sunday, these last 4 days, we've watched a lot of film. Our guys understand who they are. You know, they know they're a really good team. They're really well coached. You know, our players know they've had success in the NCAA tournament, but really when you go out tomorrow and play, none of that really matters. You know, I mean, we were in the NCAA tournament last year. We won a game. We played really well against UCLA. It's a new year. Every team is different. Our team is different. Their team, even though they have the same guys, they're a little bit different than they were last year. So I just you go out there and you play and you compete. It's about the 40 minutes. It's not about what happened, last week, last year, or whatever. You're playing a really good team, and you got to come out and you got to execute. You got to be really smart. You got to be ready to take what the game gives you. Is there foul trouble? Are you not shooting well? Are there runs within the game? And I think that's what's the beauty of the NCAA tournament. It's a one-game deal. If it was a series, then it's going to be different. 90% of the time, the better, more talented team's going to win. But in one game, you got to go out there and you got to perform. You got to play and execute and try to see if you can get the job done.
Go across the room, row 4. Just raise your hand so Coach can see. Go ahead.
Connor O'Neill with Devils Illustrated. Chris, you had the breakthrough season in 2017, and then it took you a while to get back to this point last year. How important from a program stability standpoint is it to follow it up with another berth this year?
Yeah, I think it was really important for us this year. There was a lot of talk. I mean, going in 2017 was historical. It was the first time ever in the history of the school, and it was an amazing experience. But, we weren't able to follow that up and sustain it. And we kind of, over those next couple years, kind of took a step back to the bottom of our league, which was painful to go through, and we kind of dusted ourselves off. We had to have a reset. We brought in a bunch of young guys, Boo Booey being one of them, as part of that, core. And we worked through some growing pains. And then these last 2 years to get back to the other side of it has been incredibly rewarding. It's been a lot of work from a lot of people, coaches, players, administration, everybody banding together kind of to get us back where we want to be. And it was important to sustain this. After last year, we were picked last in our league. No one really expected us to be there. We had an awesome year, finished it, won a game in the tournament, and, lost some players, but returned kind of a core. And it was a real motivating piece for our players and for our coaches to say, hey, let's stack it. Let's stack another one. Let's show that we can sustain this thing. And, that was always my goal for our program, was to be a team that could every year kind of be in the mix. It's very hard to go to the NCAA tournament, especially in the Big Ten. We got 6 bids out of 14 teams. There's a lot of really good teams in our league that aren't playing this week. So, but we want to be a program that year in and year out feels like we can compete for this opportunity. And I think we're on the right track. And hopefully these 2 years, the perception of our program, the respect level of our program has gotten back to a good point, and we can keep it going as we move into the future.
We'll take one more question if there is one. Okay, we'll go here in the front row.
Iggy Dowling, Inside and You. Coach, a team that FAU's play a lot is North Texas, also pretty small, pretty slow-paced, plays through its guards. The big decisive factor in those games were free throw rates. I don't know if that's come up in your film, but you talked about balance and FAU's balance on the offensive end. How do you stop that, and how do you keep the free throw rate from getting out of hand without really overcommitting to the post and allowing a bunch of threes?
Yeah, I mean, all those things are of concern. For us, we don't have a lot of depth, having a couple guys out, so fouls can become a real factor. So, the free throw line are opportunities to give up free points that you don't want to give up, but also it puts us in a little bit of bind if we have guys managing foul trouble just because we're down a couple bodies. So we have to do a good job of being aggressive and physical, but yet play without fouling, and that'll be an important point. Again, eliminating their easy baskets. That's the thing. They're going to score some points. They're a very prolific team. You're not going to completely shut a team like this down. But can we slow them down a little bit? Can our guys keep their guys out of the paint? Can we do a really good job against Golden down low? He's shooting almost 70% from the field. So, if he gets it down there, he usually makes it. So we got to do our work early, try to deny his touches the best we can, and then understand, though, that you can't just sell out completely on him because John L. Davis, Elijah Martin, the supporting cast is a terrific team, and all of those guys have thrown up 25, 30 in a game. So we'll have our hands full with that. It's everyone in the NCAA tournament's really good. So anybody you play, there's going to be those kind of challenges, and it's going to be important for us to come out and stay true to our principles and hopefully do a good job against them.
Okay, Coach, thanks.
Thank you,
for taking
guys.
the time.
Thank you.